Hi, well now it's time for the taste test, and I gotta tell you, these are so good. I made them about 6 months ago, and I've been thinking about them since then, and this is the perfect day for them. We got some snow overnight, first time in 3 years. So look at this. It's a blueberry bran muffin with fresh milled flour. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a bite of it. Oh yeah, look at the blueberries in there. I'm going to take a bite. These blueberries are so good. They're nice and sweet, and we've had some really good blueberries this past year. But I can taste the blueberries in it and that fresh milled flour. If you've never had it, try and get some or mill it yourself. It is so good. It's just delicious. And then you can taste that cardamom in it along with the cinnamon and the nutmeg. So anyway, I would like to show you how to make this. And if you would just join me and with me over at my counter, I'm going to show you how easy this is to put together. And you can have this at home as well. Hi, welcome to Glow's Kinder Kitchen, and I'm Glow. Well, today I wanted to share a recipe with you from one of Sue Becker's cookbooks that I got when I got my Wonder Mill for grinding my own grains. And it is called Blueberry Bran Muffin. And it is delicious. I made it about 6 months ago, and it's very good. So I wanted to first of all show you this apron that I got for Christmas. One of my sister-in-laws made this for me, Maggie, and I just love it. So thank you, Maggie. I really appreciate it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mill our grain. And this here is a soft winter wheat. And if you can tell, in some of my older videos I showed the difference in grains, but this one's definitely a shorter grain. And when you buy like an all-purpose flour, quite often this is what they're using. You use this in baking, like things like muffins and quick breads, cookies. This is what you're using. So I've got 3 cups here. I'm going to need 2.5 cups for my recipe. So I have set my grinder on pastry here. Usually if I'm going to be doing breads and stuff, I do it in between bread and pastry. I find I like it better. But for something like muffins, I find that I like it better on pastry. Main thing is to make sure you have your lid on here nice and tight, otherwise you're going to have flour going everywhere. And I explain all this in a video that I did earlier last year. And Richard, if you would do me a favor and attach that to this video so people can see that and how this all works.
Will do.
Okay, so the main thing to do when you're going to turn this on is hang on to it because it will jump. I believe it's 7 or 8 cups of grain total. And this particular mill grinds very fast. The reason I have this lid is I have found towards the end when these grains are almost through, they'll start popping out a little. But if I put this over the top, I won't have that problem. You're going to hear how the motor went up in volume.
Yep.
You want to let that run for about 10 or 15 seconds. What that's doing is it's cleaning the blades in here. So that's all there is to it. And I always kind of just tap it down to get that milled flour into my canister. I'll show you this. Look at that. See how nice that is?
Looks good.
So I'm going to need 2.5 cups of this for my muffins. So I'll be back. I'm going to get rid of this stuff, and then I'll be on to the next. I just wanted to show you how to do this.
Sounds good, Ms. Glow.
Well, I got my workspace here kind of cleaned up a little here, and we can get on to the next step. What I have in here is 2.5 cups of that soft wheat that we just ground together. And it's nice and fine. Look how nice that is.
It sure is.
Yep. And my hands are clean. So what I have here is 1/4 cup of brown sugar. I'm just going to put that in there. And then I have 1 teaspoon of salt in here. I'm using iodized salt today. I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I have 1 teaspoon of cardamom. I have about 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon and a shy 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. Now, when Sue did her cookbook, she recommended doing more cinnamon. And if you like that, by all means do it. But I prefer cardamom with blueberries. And it has more of a lemony flavor to it, which I think goes wonderful with blueberries. And that's one of the reasons I'm using it.
It does.
But I did add some of the cinnamon and nutmeg. You can use any kind of spice you want in this. Orange actually goes really well with blueberries as well.
That does too.
So what I'm doing here is I'm just whisking this all together. And I'm kind of making like a little well here in the middle. There we go. And I'm going to use the same whisk for this next. So what I have here is 1 1/4 cups of whole milk. And I'm going to pour that in here. And it really helps when you have everything measured out ahead of time because it just goes together so much easier. Here I have 1/4 cup of oil. I'm using vegetable oil today. And I also have 1/4 cup of honey. And I'm using local honey. The honey will come out of here much easier with the oil. It has been sitting here for a little bit, so it probably went to the bottom. But I'm going to go ahead and just use my little scraper here. But by using that oil in here, it makes much easier for cleanup too. There we go. I'm just going to scrape that honey off of there. I'd rather have it in our muffins than down the sink. So, and then you want to stir this together and also include 2 beaten eggs, which I have right here. And one little tip is if you forgot to take your eggs out, or you're doing this really quick and your eggs are cold, just put them in some warm water for like 5 minutes with the shell on still, the whole egg, and then crack them and beat them up. And they'll be at room temperature, because when you're baking your eggs that go into your muffins, cookies, cakes, whatever, they'll turn out much better if you have room temperature eggs. So now I'm just going to combine this together, and I'll be back in about a minute, and then we're going to go on to the next step. Okay, so now I got all the liquid ingredients combined together. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour that into here, and I'm going to stir it up. And less is more when you're working with stuff like this. What I mean by that is the less you stir it and stuff, the better off it's going to be. So what you want to do is stir it till it's all combined, but not overdo it. Kind of like brownies. If you overstir brownies, they don't turn out as nice either. So you just want to get it until it's all moistened together. Now the reason they call these Bran muffins instead of just blueberry muffins, they're blueberry Bran muffins, is because when you grind the soft white grains, or any kind of grain like that, whether it's the red winter wheat, the hard red, the hard white, or the soft white like we're using today. It has the bran on it still. So you don't have to add additional bran at all. So when you're baking with fresh milled flour, you have the bran in it. That's one of the reasons it's so healthy for us. Now see how nice that is? Now I'm going to add my 1 cup of blueberries. Now if I was using frozen blueberries, I would mix it with some flour. And the reason I would do that is so that the blueberries don't sink to the bottom of your muffins. But since I'm using fresh, I don't need to do that. And I'm just going to lightly blend these in. Looks good, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Why do the frozen blueberries sink?
That's a good question. One of the reasons is the juice is already starting to come out of them once they're frozen, and they are kind of soft. And so they will sink. And so the flour, when it combines to it, helps hold them up in the batter.
Yep.
So I'm going to go ahead and put that over here. And what I use usually to do this is you can use a little small ladle. You can use what I'm using, which is like for cookies, the cookie scoop. You can use an ice cream scoop. I have my muffin tin here. You want to fill them like 3/4 full. Making kind of a mess, but we'll clean that up before we put it in the oven. And now I have my oven preheating to 400 degrees. I like to use, when I'm making stuff like this, I really prefer the aluminum pans. I find that they cook better, for me at least in my oven. What do you guys find is best for you when you're doing your muffins and your cakes and stuff? I'd like to know. If I use the darker colored pans, it doesn't turn out as nice for me. Why, I'm not really sure. But looks like I'm going to need another muffin tin, which I have over there, so I can do that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and I'm going to get another muffin tin as well to finish filling these up, and I'll be back before we put them in the oven. Okay, so now I've got them. I have the 12 plus the 6, and 18 muffins. So what I like to do is just sprinkle a little bit of additional brown sugar over the top. And this is light brown sugar. This particular brown sugar, when I bought it, it's really light. I don't know why. I think they messed up when they were making it. I could have added some additional molasses or sorghum to it, but I didn't. But we all make mistakes, don't we?
I guess so.
So I'm just, as you can tell, just lightly putting this over the top, not much. And then we're going to put this in the oven. There we go. So, looks like I missed that one, or maybe it went in. Okay, I'll be back. These are going to take about 15 minutes, and I'll be back, and we're going to get to try these together.
Sounds good.
All right, well, I just took these out of the oven, and boy, they smell good. Don't they look beautiful?
Yes, they do.
Yep. And I test them with just a little tiny skewer, like you would use like for a turkey, if you were going to, secure it together. This works perfect. And here's the other 10 of them. So now we got to let them cool.
Did you already